You gotta wonder how many of these dream barn finds wind up in another barn. Like this 1967 GT-500 Shelby Mustang. For all we know, the guy that found the car, Bob, might have been more interested in dogs than Shelby's.
Completely out of the blue. Not expected at all.
Parked 40 years. What happened to this one? Did it get restored? People want to know. We're all curious. First off, we loaded the car up to drag back to Des Moines. Don't ask me from where. On the way out, I recall telling Jeff,
man, we're in the middle of Iowa.
We're in the middle of nowhere.
And that's not a bad feeling. That's a good feeling. Surrounded by good old American farmland, which Bob was born a hole into to get to that Shelby. Of course, we're talking about Bob Folkestad, who, when he's not playing with his dogs,
His name, Vino,
is either running his business, Creative Works in Des Moines, Iowa, or playing with one of the cars in his collection. This one he races.
in the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Challenge. It's out here. It's got the motor out of it, the blue motor out. Oil pump at Road America on the main straightaway. No oil.
So he is into cars.
Right.
Autocross, road rally, start, speed stop challenge, and then road course. Vino's the big one. Vino's 13. Odin's about 2.
More on this one a little later. Bob's pretty busy. So you tell me, will he take time to restore a car?
These little nozzles pick up the chips, and it puts all the chips on the board.
Why is it the busy people always seem to find time? Yes, Bob bought this car and he was gung-ho to get it restored. He's going to go over the restoration costs.
I told him I wanted to spend about 10 grand a month, and it was like 10 grand a week for a while. I mean, it's parts and labor.
And the price he paid for the car, which he just paid the appraisal of one of the top Shelby restorers in the country. This man, Jeff Yurgovich, R&A Motorsports.
This is not a $150, hey, we're going to write a letter and this was your car's worth.
The two center main caps have got cross bolts.
I mean, it's a couple $1,000s to have the appraisal done.
I don't know anybody who's restored more Shelby Mustangs than Jeff. So, what was Jeff's appraisal? $65,000. And what was Bob's offer? $65,000.
Carolyn, who's the widow, she had an appraiser come before Jeff and look at the car. They didn't move the car, but I actually gave her $1,000 more than the other appraiser did.
The other appraisal was $64,000.
We agreed on the price, and it was a fair deal for everybody. She's really happy with it.
Okay, so let's get into the restoration and what this whole thing costs.
See, that's not original. I put screws in there to hold the emblem on.
So what do? Replace that emblem, strip the paint, and start over, and go after a show car? Hold your horses just a minute. That lime green acrylic enamel is factory and starting to shine in the Iowa sun as we spray away all that dust. A little quarter panel rust would have a lot of people running for the paint stripper. Not Bob Folkestad. He's out to save this original paint.
So one of the first things when we got the Shelby,
With help from his son, Preston.
so we took it to Bob Perkins.
Not this Bob Perkins, the Mustang restorer. This Bob Perkins at Perks Auto Spa. For a serious detailing to determine the plan for the restoration ahead. And actually, this was the first part of that epic restoration.
You know, this front header panel here was kind of beat up. The paint's flaked off. It was broken in a few different places. This one, Bob was just starting on the car, trying to figure out what he was doing. You can see where he acid washed a little bit of the bumper to clean it up. Pulled the wipers off so we didn't actually hit it with the buffer.
Bob's keeping that original paint, so what about areas like this?
It's never going to match exactly. I mean, the car didn't match probably when it was new because the hood and the trunks weren't done at Ford, and the header panels and the tail panels. Mm-hmm. So Shelby just painted them and threw them on, so I don't think they matched very good when they were new. And I helped him. I mean, I went up there, Preston went up there, we all worked on the car. I mean,
Bob's a car person. He enjoyed helping with the restoration.
it wasn't like we just bought it and said, hell, here it is, finish the car for us. You know, I grew up in a body shop environment, and farm in Iowa. My grandpa and my dad polish cars and stuff.
One thing you'll find when you get these old barn find cars, or even old cars in general, is you'll see a lot of little rust spots on them where it's either the paint had cracked or there had been a chip or something over here. Well, what it is, it's just a micro speck of paint missing, but over time that rust kind of expands over the rest of the paint. Don't try this at home. I'm not recommending this at all, but I have an acid formula that I was able to take a soft bristle brush.
So the acid kind of eats into the rust to stop it.
Kind of just lightly rub on this with acid, and it takes the rest of that over rust that goes around the outside, and it kind of cleans that up.
A light acid solution that he's spraying on the rust to kind of neutralize the rust and then to clean the rust off the paint.
And then as we keep going through this, we'll continue to remove that rust before we get to the paint correction. And then once we do that, this will hardly be noticeable. And that's the best thing I know to do without sanding it down, having it repainted, and keeping it original.
Of course, the hood is fiberglass, so is the deck lid, so no rust problems here. But looks like that old chalky residue had blown in off the road less than 100 feet from the barn. Professionals like Perkins use a clay bar to remove stains embedded in paint finishes on fiberglass or metal.
He's using an orbital buffer, so it's not very aggressive. We're not trying to take any paint, we're just trying to clean the car.
How many owners would be demanding a repaint when look at the difference Bob has already made?
Some of the edges were beat up on the car, you know, as we found it, but we didn't want, you know, for sure we didn't want to polish, like in these edges here. You gotta be really careful buffing them because the buffer pad's big and you'll hit that edge and burn the paint right off of it. So we want to be careful. We did not do that. Then we went back in and polished it, and then we put some wax type sealer over the top to keep the rust from coming back. So this car doesn't have like a lot of guys take these patina cars and they clear coat them. This car doesn't have that done to it. So it's all natural. So he's spraying the acid on it and he's scrubbing it. And you got to be careful with this acid because it's kind of aggressive. So what he's doing is trying to get all that oxidation off. And it's similar to like that mag wheel cleaner, you know, just a little bit. But you can see it makes a huge difference.
It really shines, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did we do the rear bumper this way too?
We actually ended up replacing the rear bumper because it was bent.
Now tell us what you did on the interior here.
So we basically unbolted the seats, which I was dumbfounded when we pulled the plugs out from underneath the car and they just unbolted. I mean, it was like it was a brand new car.
Thanks to that salesman in the 1960s pushing that $99 undercoating job.
That's like the sound deadening material they put in the car. It's kind of like tar paper. Yep.
This is the original carpet? Did you re-dye that?
Yes, a little bit, just to get rid of some of the sun fading.
Then you had to find a Hurst shifter because that's not stock.
Well, that was what's in the car. We put an original shifter in it.
And the wheel, you had the big deal. You had the original wood wheel there.
Yep.
That was lucky, right?
Yeah. The car is pretty original. There was some rust right in this area. We pulled this back and we neutralized the rust and put some Pour 15 on it to stop it. There's some mildew all over the headliner and the seats just from sitting from moisture.
Oh.
So
How do you get rid of that mildew?
Bob's got some special recipe with some vinegar.
I bet those front buckets will look mint in the car.
This is your kind of before and after photo of just a Bob Perkins shop.
Bob spent a good 2 or 3 weeks cleaning and claying. And
that was $2,000 well spent on detailing. And now it's time to move on to the restoration. The brakes are still frozen. The car won't roll. February 22nd. R&A Motorsports. Jeff pulls out a 65 GT-350 that he's restoring to Concours.
Took the car from Perks Auto Spa. We brought it to Jeff's shop. Here, Jeff pulled the motor, so it was pretty nasty. It had some aftermarket headers on it, and it did turn over, but it was going to need a lot of love, and it was leaking from everywhere. You can see how rusted the exhaust was. Some of them had rusted clear off next to the head. Jeff just took a Sawzall and chopped that off.
They went hunting a 428 and came up with a stunning find. But wait, why not keep that 427 block? It's higher performance.
It wasn't the right block. It was a 68 427 side oiler, which isn't as desirable as the 67. One of the guys called me. I mean, I only got, I don't know how many phone calls over this car. But a gentleman contacted me who changed the motor with his friend when they blew it up. So they said they were street racing and they blew up the original 428 and threw a rod in it. It's out of a car that Jeff restored that's in a museum that's a drag car that'll never be put back stock. And the guy had it sitting underneath his bench forever. And Jeff goes, hey, you want to sell that motor? Jeff didn't think he'd sell it, and he sold it to us.
How much?
I think by the time we got Jeff and some cleanup stuff done on it, was about 10 grand.
That's a big price for a 428.
Yeah, but find one out of a Shelby GT-500 built the same week. It's the right date codes. It's the exact right block for the car. He's going to blow some overspray over the intake, because at Ford they put like a box over the top of the engine, and the intakes all had blue overspray all over them. So this is the original steering box here. Jeff's putting all new bearings inside of it. So this is Mike. He's working on the hood hinges. He's sandblasting the hinge spring right now.
Bob would save an original part over buying a new one. The purpose was to save originality, not money.
They replayed all that stuff in-house, so we were able to get the corrosion off of it and then put that phosphate coating right back on it. So here's your March 28, 1967.
The original alternator.
I think that's way better to rebuild the original one by an expert than go buy one from the parts store and try to replace it.
How does that make you feel when you see that date?
Well, I know that it's right for the car, and I know that it's exactly what it's supposed to be for the car.
And how does he know? The Shelby paperwork tells him so.
Okay, what do we got?
These are like the production sheets. So this is from 6 of 1967.
A few months after the part was made, so date code correct.
These were all lime green ones. All these are the green cars they're building. So that's my car right there. 2684.
Original 428 gone, but the accessories and top end got saved on this 427. Like that dual quad intake with the face of Frankenstein. Those trick Cobra valve covers and 428 heads. Even those dual quad Holley carburetors came with this car new. The Cobra oval air cleaner on the car turned out to be a repro. Might have looked original, but on the backside didn't have this Shelby stamping. Can anybody tell us what this series of letters and numbers means?
Everything on the top of this engine, all this was taken apart,
Accessories, pulleys, even the dual point distributor.
cleaned up, replated, just like factory. The carburetors, the original carburetors were on the car. We did everything we could to keep the car stock.
So what did Bob pay for this original Cobra oval air cleaner?
I mean, it was a lot. I mean, lots. It was probably around 2 grand. And then Mike had an original NOS air filter element. Somehow that ended up on there. I think that was $300 or $400 too. There's the transmission, which is the number matching exact transmission. Jeff has a transmission guy that's a guru on it. That's a T10 top loader. And they went through everything stem to stern. They were able to save all the original markings on the transmission. We actually see the date codes, the VIN number, and everything. So we pulled the booster, the master, had all of them refurbished. All the tie rod ends, I actually work with Jeff rebuilding all this stuff. This hole here is where they put in the factory or the aftermarket air conditioning. We went ahead and then welded a piece in, and then we spotted the paint in so it looks all original.
And pulled that dealer installed air. No big restoration under the hood.
All this stuff is all factory. I mean, we didn't get crazy. We didn't like sandblast it and paint it. The trunk's pulled loose. This is the top of the gas tank.
Left the stock trunk mat and underlayment.
The gas tank was trashed.
That's a hole in the gas tank right there.
Needed replaced. The bottom was rotted out. It's a 9-inch 350 gear. It's got the right tag. It's the original one, but there were some period traction bars, which ties in with the exhaust and blowing the motor up. And you know, this was all done in the late 60s. I think what saved the car is a lot. If you look in here, you can see the undercoating, and that undercoating really saved. You can see the zinc oxide primer underneath of it.
And those brakes?
You know, they were rusted solid. So we took the backing plates off. This is after we bead blasted it. Rebuilt the original wheel cylinders, had the original shoes. So we pulled the whole pedal assembly out. Here's like where the shifter and the pedal assembly, where all the bushings and stuff were beat out of it. So those were replaced, so the car drives like new.
They were saving the original paint, but
some of that had been touched up prior, so we kind of made a rule that if it had been painted before me, it was kind of okay to repaint it. So the only thing we painted was this quarter, the antenna hole on the other side, the header panel, and the 2 pieces at the rear of the car.
that would be the Shelby fiberglass taillight panel and the metal Ford lower panel, which required some fiberglass work. You might ask, why do extensive fiberglass repairs? Reproduction parts would forever lose originality. That reveals Shelby production procedures. This is hair splitting, so why bother? Because that's what we do.
So we put the whole engine together, and then we took that stuff off to put the motor plate on.
Anything's heavy.
And then we had masking tape on top of the intake manifold, so in case you drop the screw down, you wouldn't go down inside the motor.
Okay.
Clutch fork. Oh. I can't get the bolt in because the fork's sticking out on it. That's cool, it came off.
Alright, now hang on to it for a second. Alright, motorsport.
Here we are unpacking exhaust from Scott Fuller Restorations. It's date coded, it's dead on factory. It took us longer to unwrap it than it did to install it on the car. It probably took 15 minutes to install it.
Lemonade T, that's a
Fan shroud was like ridiculously expensive.
$2,000. $2,000.
What?
The clamp on the band's got to go face down. Let me hold that up. Let me get some bolts in the fan shroud.
I'm gonna go up and finish y'all's dinner.
Oh.
By the way, we're having spaghetti and meatballs and sausage tonight.
Oh.
How about that?
Bob, as you look at this car, how do you explain to people your reasoning behind not fully restoring it, not fixing all the rust and so forth? You even left those 2 rivets in that fender badge.
Why? I mean, it's only original car one time. I just can't justify in my mind doing it to this car. There's a dent here, a couple gouges. There's some surface rust down in here. You know, like this rust here, we could have went in and cleaned that up, but we didn't. And here in the corner, see there's a chunk missing.
Center cap's old and faded, but you can't put new ones on.
The car had a lot of kind of mildewy mold. So we took like a vinegar solution with just a little bit of bleach on it to kill the bacteria. The roll bar we never took out. It's still got a little bit of that moldy looking stuff on it. We think it's dead. Original Iowa inspection sticker. This one's from January of '73. We did put new hood pins on it. It had some locks on it that were aftermarket. So we got the right Shelby emblem in the right place. We painted this black just because it was kind of rusty. I didn't want it to rust anymore. So this is that panel we removed and kind of fixed, but we left some of these original imperfections. These pinholes were original. We got the car out of the barn. This was black and broken in a few spots, and there'd been some crash damage back in here. So I think when they fixed that, they just didn't do a very good job.
And here's another battle scar.
Now, do people look at this and say, hey, you need an emblem?
Yeah, you really have 2 schools in this car. Those who want an original one or those who think that it needs to be perfect. And if you're gonna drive it and enjoy it, I don't think you want it perfect. Left Iowa State on because this car came from a professor from Iowa State. and my son graduated from Iowa State. You know, something's got caught in this door at one time. There's a little crease here. There's a little bit of rust there. You got a couple screws that don't belong in this emblem. I have an NOS emblem for it, but it's a restraint. This car's an exercise in restraint. I don't want to change it. You know, these are the original stripes on the car, so I don't want to monkey with those. You know, if we go fixing this, then we're going to be into these stripes. We'll be fixing that. Somebody's pried into it in here before with a screwdriver trying to break in. It's that way when we got it.
A great story for show and tell at the car show.
There's a couple dents in the roof. I think in the barn he must have laid some stuff on it. It's a original lower slants. The rubber bumpers. Exhaust is new. The car would have been more rotten, needed more metal work, and it's taken a lot of restraint to not restore the car completely. And this is kind of something I'll do on my own. You know, we've never had the trunk off the car. Those bolts are untouched. So, you know, the only thing we painted on this car were things that have been painted or touched up previously that were in pretty bad disrepair. So to mechanically restore it, enjoy it, and get it out in the public. And have fun with it. It's really what the car's about.
Said he'd do a burnout for you if you want. All right.
What you got in a promoter?
428 police interceptor.
Nice.
Is that a clone or is it a real one?
It's real.
Old GT-500 is like driving a tractor, kind of. Reverse is over and to the left. You got to lift this up.
Is that a new dash pad?
Nope.
I see a little, yeah.
Yeah, it's original.
Wow, that's really nice, so isn't it? Yeah. What's most fun about driving this car?
It takes you back in time. I mean, you think about this car was built at Shelby, America in 1967 while they were racing in Le Mans. I mean, it's pretty epic. This car was built in the airport there.
And most people won't get their Shelbys out in everyday traffic, right?
No, a lot of people put them on trailers, and I understand they're expensive, but they're cars. They need driven. Right? Come on, you wanna come out? How you doing? Come on, bud. An overview of the restoration. This is the stack of invoices that were paid for the car. We did the car rather quickly, so it took some time. We dropped the car off in February and I picked it up in late June. I paid him really quickly so the car could move fast, and he was pretty happy with me and I was happy with him. Let's just say it's $10,000 for the long block. Then you have the restoration of the carburetors, cleaning up all my original parts, valve covers, intake manifold, rebuilding the carburetors, exhaust manifolds that I didn't have, spark plug wires, rebuild the power steering pump, alternator, just everything that goes on a motor. You know, it's probably really closer to $20,000 when you add everything up like that. Then the transmission, you know, by the time you get the transmission, you get a shifter, you get everything working correctly on it, clutch, have the flywheel resurfaced, have everything working right on that. That's another probably $4,000 or $5,000. So, you know, just the engine and transmission alone's over half the expense probably of parts. Then you have all the knick-knack specialty Shelby stuff, which is really rare. So some of the original NOS parts that Jeff had and things that only a guy like him or some of the other Shelby specialists have, they're scarce to find those parts, and you need the right guy to find them, and they're expensive. It'd be pretty easy to add up to $40,000 to $50,000 in parts, and then 20 or plus thousand in labor. Plus, you know, the cleaning and picking it up and towing and other things that we did, you know, with our own equipment. So, I mean, to work on these cars, you need to have your piggy bank kind of saved up.
Thus far, $65,000 for the car, another $76,000 for the restoration, detailing, and incidentals for $141,000 total. This dog is a cross between a Siberian Husky and a Pomeranian.
And Odin's a Pomsky. He's probably the biggest Pomsky there is. He weighs about 40 some pounds.